Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. The show spins around the existence of Shoesmith, a contract killer for enlist who offsets his crimes with his commitments to loved ones. Brittany, his 7-year-old daughter, is taken care of by his ex-wife Jacinta Ray, who also takes care of Bruce, his ailing brother. Ray meets with his boss at the beginning of the episode. Maddie is Freddy's associate. He inquires of Maddie regarding why he did not place the wager on Freddy's gambling. At first, the man tries to get out of the situation by lying and negotiating. However, when Ray persists, he admits his error. Consequently, Ray pushes him off the stairs to teach him a lesson. Afterward, Beam meets Freddy at a dance club to gather his installment. His boss does not currently have the funds, possibly due to gambling losses. As a result, Freddy informs Ray that he can seize $10 million from a debtor and keep it for himself. Our hero concurs. In any case, tells his manager that he will require an additional amazing for assisting him with gathering the obligation. In response, Freddy sends Nick, a member of his crew, to assist Ray in collecting the debt. In the following scene, Ray and Nick take a car to Ashfield in order to locate the debtor who goes by the name Terry. From the start, Scratch beats Terry pitilessly. But the elderly man. Additionally, he asserts that he lacks funds. However, he claims that he will receive it within a week. Beam thinks about one more method for frightening unfortunate Terry. He sees the old man's family picture and asks for Terry's wallet. After that, he writes down Harry's address and threatens him by claiming that he will instead go to his house to deal with his family. Terry is afraid of this. So he vows to promptly return the cash. Ray walks his dog in a park the following day. He meets an alley named woman there, who is additionally strolling her canine. They talk about little things, and they both end up liking each other later. Ray visits his little girl, Brittany, who lives with his ex, Jacinta. He then takes his child with him to visit Bruce, his brother. Because he frequently presents Brittany with gifts, Uncle Bruce is very friendly to her. One evening, as Beam is wary obligation at a dance club, his closest companion, Gary, appears. They have a private conversation. Also, Gary expresses that while he was watching grown-up motion pictures at home, his Russian spouse. When Tatiana learned about the DVD, she became enraged at him to save herself. Gary let his significant other know that Beam is the person who claims the port, and shockingly, she trusted his untruths. Gary then requests that Beam come to his home and affirm his story to Tatiana. Our hero eventually agrees, despite initially being hesitant. Ray meets Tatiana when he visits his best friend's house in the following scene. He reluctantly acknowledges to her that he owns the pornographic DVD. Tatiana censures Beam and offers back the pornography to him. The DVD is later discarded by Ray, but Gary retrieves it and returns it to the house. This is, obviously, without his significant other's notification. The next day when Beam is spending time with his little girl, two young boys come face to face with Brittany in the street. The young men are exceptionally discourteous to Beam and try and use cuss words. Ray sees those two boys again, now chatting on the street, as he returns his little girl to the car. Beam advises Brittany to wait in the vehicle, guaranteeing that he will get a few papers, yet all things considered. He immediately approaches those two boys and beats one of them, causing the other to panic and escape. However, a woman observes this action. While seeking after the person who took off, Beam runs over rear entryway at a grocery store and figures out that she's a paramedic. This time, Ray seizes the opportunity to request that the next scene include her number. Luke Henson, a business owner, finishes his jog and returns to his vehicle. Ray suddenly appears and coerces him into climbing into his car's trunk. After that, Ray takes Luke to the woods and instructs him to make a hole. While Luke is doing this, Ray kills him right away and buries him in the same hole Luke dug one morning. Brittany asks her father if Santa Claus is real when they get home. Beam can't deceive his little girl, so he says that Saint Nick Claus is totally phony. After Brittany gets some information about Jesus, Easter Rabbit and Tooth Pixie, Beam would rather not make his daughters extremely upset. Therefore, he informs her that unicorns exist. He then makes up a tale about when he headed to the Blue Mountains and saw a unicorn there before it flew. Afterward, a few police come to Ray's house and gather him to meet at court for beating the two young fellows a day or two ago. Thus, he's told to go to outrage the executive's treatment. Ray goes to Freddy's playhouse, a nightclub, that night. Freddy illuminates him that Luke isn't the person they should k. This causes Beam to regret what he did. So he furiously advises his supervisor to give him the right name. In the future. Slice to the following scene. Ray and Allie have a wonderful date. They get to know one another and share their past. Ray remarks that Allie avoided the bullet when she mentioned her failed marriage when she was 21. The two end their date at Ray's place where they get cozy with one another. The day after that, Beam unexpectedly gets a call from the medical clinic. It just so happens, Gary is right now in a state of extreme lethargy. At the point when he shows up at the clinic, Beam solaces Tatiana and asks Jerry's brother by marriage Vasily what occurred. The letter uncovers that it was a weapon bargain turned out badly. As per him, he and Gary were doing illegal business when some men broke up their meeting, hit Gary in the head, and fled with all the guns. As Beam pays attention to this, he sees a great deal of things that simply don't check out. For example, why the looters didn't beat Vasily and why his knuckles have no injuries. Regardless of Vasily guaranteeing that he beat up one of the looters. That evening, Beam comes to Vasily's home. Beats him and powers him to come clean. The last option denies any bad behaviors from the start. But he finally speaks up when Wraith threatens to kill him. He uncovers that he and his partner, Hassan, expressed Gary up. However, they didn't expect that the looters would slam him this severely. When Ray hears this, he becomes enraged and makes Vasily call Hassan. At the point when the person shows up, Beam holds him at gunpoint, out of concern. Hassan affirms reality that the other looters beat Gary. Following Hassan's information about the robbers, our hero pursues them. He kills two of the men liable for beating Gary. The following day, Gary awakens from his unconsciousness. Furthermore, much obliged, Beam, for dealing with him. Ray visits his ex-girlfriend's house later to spend time with his daughter. They're just sent a Beretta Beam for let Brittany know that Jesus isn't genuine, particularly when she and her new spouse have chosen to raise Brittany as a Christian. Accordingly, Beam says that he was coming clean and that he doesn't believe his youngster should put stock in stories prior to driving off. After this, Beam joins in the court-requested outrage the board treatment meeting. The treatment is, as it were, acceptable for him, since the option is jail. Nonetheless, his most memorable gathering goes poorly. Men are beating their wives and children in the room, which is not appropriate and does not build character. He must therefore speak because he not only struggles with anger but also with impulse control. At the point when he lets the gathering know that he doesn't have a place in this room loaded with spouse and kids mixers, it gets on the nerves of another participant. Ray almost gets into a fight with a man as a result of this, but the therapist stops him in his tracks. Sadly, this is not the only topic of the day. Freddy, his boss, tells him that the people he blamed for putting Gary in a coma belong to a crew led by the brother of his son-in-law, Davros. Freddy then demands, Beam, plunk down with Davos to smooth the waters. The following day, Vasily, while on drugs, tries to rob Gary's safe by breaking into his house. Ray, who is out shopping with Allie, receives an SOS text from Gary, who just got home from the hospital. Gary delays by giving a few reasons, like not knowing the mix for the safe. Fortunately, Beam acts the hero and speedily manages Vasily. The Russian falls down the steps. What's more, during this time, Gary figures out how to grab away his weapon. Then, Gary appears to shoot Vasily's skull. Simultaneously, Tatiana gets back, causing the two friends to become frightened. Gary attempts to cut the body into pieces with the goal that it tends to be more straightforward for them to dump it while Rage attempts to conceal the episode from Tatiana. Sadly for Gary, it turns out that the bullet hit Vasily's skull, giving the impression that he was dead. Be that as it may, as a general rule, he was just taken out. As a result, the latter awoke and fled for his life when Ray attempted to demolish the city. Tatiana chases Gary out of the room in a fit of rage after he explains what Vasily tried to do to him. Meanwhile, Beam simply leaves since he lacks the opportunity to manage their privately run companies. Despite the fact that Beam has a criminal foundation, he has somewhat of a delicate side, particularly with respect to his girl, Brittany. He frequently goes to her games, invests energy with her and brings her over to his siblings' home so she knows where she comes from. He even acquaints her with his new sweetheart, partner. Ray finally meets Davros that night, a relative of Freddy and a crime boss whose men he had earlier beaten. In any case, the gathering doesn't be guaranteed to work out positively. Beam is plainly there out of consideration for his chief, Freddy. Furthermore, with Davros getting the gathering going by declining to shake lifted hand, he basically is dead to him. All things considered, what Beam wants the most is regard. Davros sends 3 men after R, enraged. Ray and Ali go grocery shopping in the following scene at a nearby supermarket. When they are finished, 2 men hold him back from having the option to pull out of a spot in the parking area when they become loudly oppressive to Beam. He uses his body to deal with the situation. He gets out of his car and violently beats them until they flee. Ali is stunned to see this side of his character some other time. When she stands up to him about the new occurrence, he tells her that he was just helping society out by rebuffing the troublemakers. That evening, Beam sees Davros' men watching his home and draws them into a distant region. At the point when he shows up at an old and deserted processing plant, he escapes the vehicle. Additionally, Reddy is wearing a submachine gun patch and a bulletproof vest that Gary recently gave to him. At the point when Dorothy's men show up in their vehicle, he starts shooting and pitilessly kills them all. Ray finishes his work when he returns home to Ali, who can smell but cannot identify the gunpowder on Ray. Ray and Gary plan to rob a drug dealer the following day, and they want Nick to join them, because he will be driving their car. Before escorting himself to the bathroom, Nick says that he is in on the plan. He tries to call someone, but he drops his phone in the toilet by accident. After that, Nick informs Ray and Gary that he will be going outside to smoke. Be that as it may, as a general rule, he goes to a close-by pay phone and dials a number. He is caught attempting to report his partner by Ray, who had been following him outside. It just so happens, Scratch is really a secret cop as he doesn't have a weapon with him. Nick gives up on himself. Gary and Ray then drive him out into the wild. Also, they're condescending on how to manage Scratch. Normally, that choice depends on Beam. Since Gary could do without taking care of business, our legend then, at that point, lets Scratch go on the grounds that he needn't bother with the difficulty of a police demise on him and on the grounds that he hasn't done anything around Scratch. Dave and Bobby abruptly kidnap Ray later. Davros hired 2 assassins. By revealing that he has a sturdy box hidden in a specific location that contains more money than they need to complete the task, our cunning hero is able to steal them. In private, the headmen intend to take the money and deliver him to Davros nonetheless. Sooner or later, Beam drives them to a solid box, however claims to not recall the mix. He then suggests that they purchase a gas-cutting torch from a hardware store nearby in order to open the strong box. Beam is told to sit inside the storage compartment of the vehicle as Dave and Bobby drive up to the home improvement shop. As Dave purchases a gas-cutting light, Bobby passes on Beam in the storage compartment of their vehicle to go buy cigarettes. Furthermore, when they return, they shockingly find the vehicle gone. The next scene demonstrates the baffling disappearance of the vehicle from the parking lot. In a flashback, we see 2 negligible hoodlums showing up in front. They glance around, take Dave Bobby's vehicle with Beam still in the storage compartment. After that, they drive the car to a mechanic to sell it. The technician makes reference to that he will give them cash just once he has every one of the parts checked. The lawbreakers then, at that point, remove areas of strength for the and pass on the vehicle to the repairman. Later, while Ray is yelling inside for assistance, the mechanic picks up on some noise coming from the vehicle. Since he would rather not cause problems, the technician drives the vehicle to a woods region and leaves. After numerous tries, Beam at long last escapes from the storage compartment and gets into the vehicle. He drives around and enters a takeout joint with the same 2 con artists, with his solid box. After that, he follows them and steals the box, only to be found and kidnapped once more by Dave and Bobby. They drive Dave into the woods to meet Davos after he informs them that the plan is still in place. Ray is instructed to dig a graveyard nearby in order to find out who has been waiting for them. Then, Davos hands Dave his portion of the installment. However, Bobby reveals that they have built a strong box. Davos is furious and demands that they share the money from the strong box with him. Bobby also opens it with a gas cutter. Everyone is hurt when the strong, empty box that was rigged to explode. Since Ray was told he was the least injured and was digging a grave a little further, he has enough time to kill Davos. Furthermore, Bobby, in any case, he leaves Dave alive. Out of regard. After that, it is made clear that Dave and Ray are of the same family. Dave simply believes that the Cash should battle for his family and his eager spouse, who is soon to bring forth a child kid. Dave says that he owes this one to Beam. Prior to hurrying ceaselessly. In the last scene, Beam gets a call from Allie, and he illuminates her that he will be late to meet her this evening due to work commitments. Turn on notifications. Please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.